In the previous lesson, we discussed the male reproductive system and its functions. This lesson will focus on the female reproductive system, which is a bit more complex because it performs additional functions to the male system. Both the male and female reproductive systems are responsible for regulating sexuality by producing hormones. You learned in the last lesson that the male sex hormone is testosterone. The female system produces a number of hormones, including estrogen, progesterone, and luteinizing hormone. These hormones are responsible for the onset of puberty in adolescence, which marks the beginning of a woman's ability to reproduce. They also control menopause, the series of changes that end a woman's reproductive capabilities. These hormones also work together to regulate the monthly cycles of the female system. In addition to regulating sexuality, both the male and female reproductive systems are responsible for the process of gametogenesis. Gametogenesis is the process of making gametes, egg and sperm, by meiosis. As you know, the male reproductive system is responsible for making sperm. The female reproductive system is responsible for producing the egg. These first two functions are performed by both male and female reproductive systems. The female system is a bit more complex because in addition to these first two functions, the female system must also manage the development of offspring during pregnancy. Now that you know the functions of the female reproductive system, let's examine the structures that comprise the system. Two ovaries are found on either side of the female's body. They are each roughly the size of an almond and produce the hormone estrogen. Estrogen is an important hormone that regulates pregnancy, the menstrual cycle, and plays a role in the changes of puberty. In addition to producing estrogen, the ovaries are also the site of gametogenesis, or egg development. This diagram shows an ovary with egg cells, or ova, in various stages of maturity. The ova are housed in tiny egg sacs called follicles. Each month, one follicle containing an ovum ripens and migrates to the surface of the ovary. The follicle ruptures, releasing the egg during a process called ovulation. After ovulation, the egg passes into a tube called the fallopian tube or oviduct. The fallopian tube or oviduct connects the ovary to the uterus or womb. Inside the tube is where fertilization or fusion of egg and sperm usually takes place. Having your tubes tied is a surgical procedure that prevents fertilization by keeping the sperm from getting to the egg inside the oviduct. The uterus, or womb, is a hollow muscular organ about the size of a fist. Inside the uterus is where the baby develops during pregnancy. The uterus is lined with soft tissue called the endometrium. If pregnancy occurs, the endometrium helps to cushion the baby growing inside the uterus. If fertilization does not occur, the endometrium is shed along with blood and mucus during the menstrual flow or period. The neck of the uterus is called the cervix. The cervix is a thick, muscular structure at the base of the uterus that seals and protects the contents of the uterus. During delivery of a baby, the cervix thins and dilates to allow the baby to pass through the birth canal. The cervix is a common site of cancer in women, so during annual gynecological exams, doctors perform a pap smear. During a pap smear, the cervix is swabbed to collect cells. The cells are then analyzed to check for cancer. Having an annual gynecological exam is an important step in maintaining the health of the female reproductive system. The opening to the female reproductive system is the vagina. The vagina receives the penis during intercourse and serves as the birth canal during delivery. Notice that the vagina and uterus is completely separate from the urinary bladder and urethra. This is slightly different from the male system, where the reproductive and urinary tracts share the same passageway inside the penis. Now that you know the various structures and functions of the female reproductive system, it's time to examine the hormonal cycles that control the activities of the system. The monthly changes that occur in the female reproductive system are called the menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle includes the ovarian cycle, which is the cyclic changes that occur in the ovaries. Roughly every 28 days, an egg within a follicle matures and is released at ovulation. After ovulation, the egg travels down the oviduct and the follicle forms a body called the corpus luteum. The menstrual cycle also includes the uterine cycle, which is the changes that occur inside the uterus. The uterine cycle involves the thickening of the endometrium or uterine lining to prepare for pregnancy. Roughly every 28 days, if pregnancy does not occur, the endometrium is shed when the female has her period. Both the ovarian and uterine cycles occur on an average of 28 days. Some women experience a shorter cycle, while others experience a longer cycle. All of the changes that occur as part of the menstrual cycle are regulated by hormones produced by the pituitary gland in the brain and the ovaries. This chart documents the changes of the ovarian cycle, uterine cycle, as well as hormone levels and body temperature at various times throughout the 28 days of the menstrual cycle in humans. During the first week of the cycle, menstruation is occurring. During the first 4 days of menstruation, the pituitary gland inside the brain begins producing follicle-stimulating hormone, or FSH for short. FSH causes a follicle within the ovary to begin maturing. As the follicle develops between days 4 and 14, it begins producing estrogens. The increasing amount of estrogen in the body stimulates the thickening of the endometrial lining of the uterus. This thickening of the endometrium happens to serve as cushioning for a baby if pregnancy were to occur. Rising estrogen levels also cause the pituitary gland to slow the production of FSH and start producing lots of luteinizing hormone, or LH. The spike in luteinizing hormone causes the follicle to rupture and release the egg. This event is called ovulation and usually occurs around day 14 of the cycle, about a week after menstruation ends. Ovulation ends the first phase of the menstrual cycle, known as the follicular phase, which usually extends from day 1 to day 14. After ovulation, the follicle forms a yellowish body called the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum gives the second phase of the menstrual cycle its name, the luteal phase. The luteal phase lasts from ovulation around day 14 to just before menstruation around day 28. Once the corpus luteum forms, it begins to secrete the hormone progesterone. Progesterone helps the endometrium thicken even more. Progesterone also helps to maintain the thick endometrium for pregnancy and prevents the development of any new follicles by stopping the production of FSH in the pituitary gland. If fertilization does not occur, LH levels decrease, causing the corpus luteum to deteriorate. Progesterone levels drop, causing the endometrium to break down, and menstruation begins. As menstruation occurs, the pituitary gets busy producing FSH to develop a new follicle and restart the cycle. As you can see, the female reproductive system is quite complex, and a lot goes into regulating the menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle is the body's way of preparing for a potential pregnancy. If pregnancy does not occur, the cycle continues. What happens after fertilization, when pregnancy does occur, will be covered in the next 2 lessons.